Good evening. What I'm presenting today are the effects of the electrons when you consider the particle physics in the global planetary models. This is a project that now is part of a new ERC advanced grant called Terra Virtuale, but you see there also several other sources of funding. Here you see the first example of what we want to do. This is a model of Mercury that has been recently published on JGR. On the left you see the model of Mercury for given solar wind conditions at reaching steady state, and you see what the electron temperature is measured in kiloelectron-volt in a hybrid simulation. Hybrid simulation means that the electrons are treated as a fluid species. On the right you see the same case when the electrons reach their contribution. So we start from the hybrid status and we turn on the electron physics and we see what new steady state is reached, and that is the condition that you see. And you see obviously from the color scale, which is the same in the two cases, that the electron temperature, so the energization of the electrons, is much stronger when you consider the electron physics. The magnetic field configuration does not change dramatically, but there is more indication of reconnection, as you can see, for example, in this region where you see a flux rho being formed. The motivation why we were able to do this simulation with full electron physics comes from the use of the implicit particle in cell method. This is a technique that has been developed first at Los Alamos by my supervisor, Jerry Brackbill, and then by myself when I was a student and then a staff member at Los Alamos, and then it continued over the years when I moved to KU Leuven with several collaborators. The latest development is that now this method uses an energy conserving technique that allows to do simulations with larger time step and more accuracy. The latest development is the use of CPUs and GPUs to make this more efficient in terms of computation. This is this shows the transition that I described from the initial hybrid state, so there's conditions that reach a steady state in a hybrid simulation, and then we turn on the electron physics. As you see that the electrons start to gain energy, and as they gain energy they reach a new sort of steady state where the conditions of the planet don't change significantly anymore, but it's still dynamical. If you look at the evolution, you see that this flux rho, for example, evolve and other evolutions. So it's not a complete steady state. It reaches kind of a asymptotic energy, but the system is still rich of developing physics. The reason why we see this very significant change in energization of the electrons is the fact that the transitions that happen in the presence of electron physics are much stronger. The fact that the electrons are actually particles and not a fluid creates stronger currents and more localized currents that are not present in the case of a hybrid model where the electrons are fluid. You see also reconnection developing stronger in the kinetic case, as you can see from the presence of clear indications of reconnection through formation of flux ropes in the tail, but also in the day side. So it's more dynamically active, and this leads to stronger energization. So we will now look at the cat that you see, a fly-through, a virtual fly-through using a virtual satellite, flying through the white line that you see from north to south, or rather from south to north, and going up. And we will see in the next slide what are the conditions along this line. So you see here on the left the current, and on the right you see the electron temperature in kiloelectron-volt. And as you can see, obviously the hybrid compared with the full kinetic. The full kinetic is in orange and the hybrid is in blue. And you can see that the presence of electron kinetic physics is allowing a stronger current, much stronger. It's an order of magnitude stronger and much more localized that you find in the hybrid case. And this, as a consequence, among other things, there are also more wave, particle interaction, and so forth. You can find out more by reading the JGR paper where the physics is fully analyzed. But the main reason is the stronger, more localized features present due to the electrons, lead to a much higher electron temperature. Surprisingly, not only the electrons are energized more, but also the ions are energized more. What you see on this slide, on top is the electron temperature, on the bottom is the ion temperature. And as you can see, during the evolution of the kinetic simulation, also the ions gain much more energy than they did in the hybrid run. Another advantage of using the electron kinetic physics is that reconnection can happen naturally. It doesn't rely on empirical models or numerical resistivity or anomalous resistivity or other effects that are not fully captured by the model. In this case, the electron physics is fully captured and the reconnection happens as it does in nature. And an indication of that is the fact that we can measure the electron agyrotropy as a good indicator of where reconnection happens, and you can see the agyrotropy is very large in several regions, in the magnetopause, in the day side and night side, in the bow shock, and in the tail in various regions, but also in other locations that you would not normally immediately think of. So we need then to analyze these different regions of reconnection, looking at a precise indicator that was recently developed by my team. We call it Lorentz reconnection indicator. That is a measure of where reconnection happens, and it's particularly valuable in 3D, where other techniques for identifying reconnection are more difficult to find. Together with finding null points, but reconnection can be more complicated than happening only at null points. So this is a valuable indicator. And you can see here, we pick on one specifically, and we trace the magnetic field lines as they wrap around each other and reconnect, as indicated in this cartoon that is from a paper by Bob Ergan. And you see these yellow regions are regions of reconnection found by the Lorentz indicator, and we pick one and we look at the magnetic field lines and we find the reconnection is happening. If we then look at electron flow lines, as you can see there, as it encounters this region, the energy of the electrons goes up significantly. What you see in color is the amount of flow, so I mean the speed of the flow. It gets energized by the process of reconnection, and it becomes also very chaotic because it encounters multiple reconnection sites, and the electron trajectory becomes very complicated. This is not a particle trajectory. This is average trajectory of the electrons taken as an ensemble. So in conclusion, we can do Mercury scale simulation, and then future work will focus on the Earth. That's the goal of the Terra Virtuale project. We find that when the electron scale particle physics is included, then the features, and especially the currents, become more localized and much more intense. This leads to stronger energization of electrons and, surprisingly, also of the ions. The process of energization are linked with streaming instabilities and formation of these strong features, and reconnection and turbulence play a very complex role in this process, and capturing completely the electron physics allows us to study this completely. And future work, as I said, will focus on doing this for the Earth. Thank you.